Right, so ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Linda Wilson, who is a coach, mentor, speaker, and an expert in emotional intelligence, emotional support, and ethical influence. After confronting and overcoming significant personal challenges, Linda uses her experience as a platform to help others realize their worth and potential. Her mission is to assist individuals in identifying their purpose, passion, and path, empowering them to construct the lifestyle of their dream. Without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Linda Wilson from Loving Life's Journey.
Thank you. And put that up there. Can you see that? All right. So good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to attend your group meeting. This is awesome. Great stuff. Really good. I haven't heard sales presented that way before, so that's awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to get to meet all of you and to learn more about how I can be of service to you. What I'd like to share today is about emotional intelligence across multi-generations. And today's objectives, there you go, are to give you a definition of emotional intelligence, give you a definition of the different generations, and we'll see how we can get them to work together. So what is emotional intelligence? According to the EQ Project, it's the practice of recognizing and understanding emotions in yourself and others, and using that awareness to bring out the best in yourself and those around you. Now, according to the World Economic Forum, 8 of the top 10 skills needed for 2025 are in the emotional intelligence. And that's only 2.5 years away, not even. So we need to get really sharp on these. There are 4 core principles of emotional intelligence, and I'm just going to give you the 10,000-foot view real quick because I don't have the full time to go into it deeper right now. That's something I'll offer at the end. So there's the 4 core principles. There's self-recognition, self-management, social recognition, and social management. Self-recognition is an understanding of personal psychology and overall self-awareness. Self-management is the ability to use our awareness, emotions, and our inner resources to appropriately manage our behavior and achieve our objectives. Social recognition reflects our awareness of the emotions and response of others. And social management is our ability to use interpersonal skills to effectively manage our relationships and bring out the best in those around us. There are some very specific pain points of lack of emotional intelligence when you're working across generations. Some of those are the stereotypes and assumptions between the generations about the generations. There's a communication issues that arise from differences in styles and the interpretation of tone. And there can be an us versus them scenario. And it's not just us versus us, but it's us versus them. It's us versus us multiple times for each generation. And so it just keeps multiplying and getting farther and farther out of control. Now, here's a quick list of the generations as given by the Caregivers of America. There's the greatest generation, the silent generation, the baby boomer generation, that's me, the Generation X, the millennials, Generation Z, and Gen Alpha. Now that's a lot of generations. The greatest generation was born between 1901 and 1924. They were impacted by the Great Depression, and they taught their children to be extremely frugal. They're also representative of the majority of the soldiers that fought in World War II. The silent generation came between 1928 and 1945, and they're the smallest group due to the consequences from the Great Depression and World War II. And they're called the silent generation because of the size of the population. They're quite small. And the hesitancy for them to speak out against social issues due to the McCarthy era government during that time in the 50s. I don't, guys some of you were probably too young to remember, but you might have studied it in school. If you spoke out against anything that the government wanted done or expected of you, you were considered a communist and you were blacklisted. You couldn't work, you lost your jobs, you lost everything. They shut you completely down. And so that generation just kind of closed their mouths and didn't say anything at all. And they just sat back and because they had to protect themselves. Now, the baby boomer generation was between 1946 and 1964. That's my generation. They're an integral part of, and they were present for many of the technological advances in the last 50 years. They're more adaptable to modern growth and learning how to function in today's technological age. Generation X was between 65 and 80. And in relation to technology, they serve as a bridge between the older populations and the younger ones. They were present for the inception of the internet, video games, artificial intelligence, and it's the population that has created many of these advances. Millennials were born in 1981 to 1996. They grew up with technology. They're technology natives. They also crave work-life balance, collaboration, and they like to keep learning. Generation Z was born between 1996 and 2012, and they were exposed to social media at the very beginning, and they were the first population to have to cope with cyberbullying and other internet-related issues. And it's also during this time that school-related violence and climate crisis became much more prevalent in social media. Gen Alpha was born between 2013 and all the way coming up through 2025. And they're the first group to actually be born in the 21st century. They're the first generation to be born to parents who grew up with the internet, cell phones, tablets, and social media. They're also the most racially diverse and the most technologically adept. So, what does all this mean? At a minimum, there's 4 generations in any workplace, and there could easily be 5. And if you look at the elementary school settings in some families, there could be 6 or even all 7 generations there. And it's very easy for communication to become very, very hard. According to Primease, there are 7 challenges faced by leaders of multi-generational organization. There's age, values, workplace relationships, feedback, communication styles, dress codes, and perceptions of work ethic. Now, see if any of these situations sound familiar. There's arguments about anything and everything. People never look up from their phone, and they never take their face off the computer when they're talking to you. They're wearing headsets all the time. You get grunts or one-word answers to questions or responses. And you get people wanting to meet just in person, and you don't want to meet in person. People resisting change. It's always worked this way. Why can't we do it this way? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you got any teenagers at home? That's exactly what that sounds like to me. So how do I help everyone work together? First I have everyone take an online DISC and EQ assessment. That's emotional intelligence and a DISC personality tool, and they're combined. And that helps us understand everybody's personality type and their emotional intelligence strengths and challenges so that we have a base to work with. Then I come in and help you understand the motivators and the drivers of the generations on your team and in your workforce or in your organization. And that can determine what generational strengths we build on to help make things more cohesive. So what would be the next steps? One would be to take an individual EQ DISC assessment and attend the group debrief. That's where you get your own comprehensive EQ and DISC assessment and an invitation to a group debrief session call to review your results. There's also a personal study and a bonus assessment package, and you get all of the previous one. Plus, you can attend a 3-hour deep dive workshop to gain comprehensive understanding of emotional intelligence and how it affects your personal and work relationships and interactions. And what I'd like to offer to all of you, to your organizations or your groups, is a 45-minute discussion on this topic for your group, wherever you'd like it to be presented. It can be in person or virtual. And I would do that completely complimentary at no cost to you. So I'll put my contact information here, and I sent Gabriel the slides, so he's got the contact information in there as well. And if you'll share the slides with the group, that's fine. That way they have the stats and all the information. And let's open it up for questions.